Morimoto has a pretty solid Spiritomb. It's actually the same as Cynthia's, with just Will-O-Wisp. It even has the same EVs. Technician flings rock fake out Ambipom with jolly 252 attack and speed is actually quite good. Also, an impish 252 HP defensive Vaporeon is actually quite solid with its stall kit, and also with having Yawn. Rocks and sand, very bulky. His Vaporeon has 252 in both special stats with actually pretty good moves. With Calm Nature and a Wiki Berry, he has a timid Jolteon with 252 in special attack and speed, Lumberry. Pretty good status and pretty good stab. Not bad. It's also a bit of a hard-hitting pivot. His Flareon is not so much great. It's adamant 252 attack and speed with an Ayapa Berry, which will help of course with recoil, so it's not all bad, even though again, Kamikaze Flare Blitz. But no, we aren't done yet. There are still 2 rematches we have to go over, as there is the next run through, and then there's actually a 3rd battle with everyone. Everyone now has maxed out EVs in total, so everything is like full EV'd out now. Leading off, Aron has a Yanmega with timid 52 HP, 252 special attack, and 204 speed, with Wise Glasses, Detect, and Speed Boost. This thing can all but ensure the first strike with a very good moveset and very good stats to back it up. It's pretty menacing. An Akaberry Technician Scissor with adamant 252 HP and attack is great. A stellar Bullet Punch, the bulk to use Swords Dance, X-Scissor and Night Slash, they're pretty great. His Vespiquen is a strict upgrade, 252 attack and HP, adamant nature, it's naturally very bulky and very hard hitting for what it is. Citrus Berry of course as well. Both Heracross and Drapion are still jolly 252 attack, 204 speed, and 52 HP. Same items as before, same everything else, they're fantastic. Bertha, she has a Brave Whiscash now with a Rindo Berry 252 attack and special attack each. It's actually pretty good at dealing damage for its bulk. Her Gliscor is adamant 252 attack and HP, and it's got a solid Earthquake. It also is very fast and very bulky. Her Golem is still pretty much the same as usual, still jolly 62 HP, newly added 252 attack and 204 speed. It's still great with that Rock Palace setup. Rhyperior and Hippowdon are both adamant 252 HP in attack, both stellar. Hippowdon, as always, is great, physically extremely bulky, sand setup, and Rhyperior is just absolutely devastating. With a Muscle Band, solid rock solid ability. In the sand, it has enormous bulk, a great moveset, and great damage. Really, there's not much bad here. Flint Houndoom, 252 special attack, 52 HP, 204 speed, modest nature, 2 great stabs, possible setup, and in the worst case scenario for it can just use Destiny Bond to bring down an opponent with it. Pretty good. It's pretty mean. An adamant 252 attack and HP Flareon is actually not terrible. It hits pretty hard even if it is a bit of a kamikaze mission for it. Jolly 52 HP, 252 attack, and 204 speed, wide lens Rapidash with a great moveset for power and tech. Iron Fisted Jolly Infernape with a sash, same EVs as Rapidash. Its moveset is brutal, especially with that close combat. It's a very good monkey. Magmortar, modest, 252 special attack, 52 HP, and of course the 204 speed, we've seen it before. Very stellar moveset, it hits pretty hard. Lucian, screens on his light clay Mr. Mime, bold nature, 252 HP, 52 special attack, and 204 speed. It's very good at actually taking a hit, setting up those screens, and actually being able to deal some damage in return. Mental Herb is a bit odd for Espeon, but okay. Timid, 52 HP, 252 special attack, at 204 speed. Very good. And 3 great special attacking moves, especially with those screens up. It can definitely be extremely damaging. The same applies for his Brave Bronzong, 252 HP and attack. With solid moves, it's always great as always. Great bulk, and especially with that great fantastic typing. Magic Guard Alakazam as usual with of course that Life Orb, timid, same EVs as Espeon. Nasty Plot is still just brutal, other moves fantastic. They are vicious. His Gallade is jolly natured, 52 HP, 252 special attack, and 204 speed. Brutal moves that it can hammer things physically extremely well. Once again, we return to Cynthia, but not for the last time. Much of her team is actually the same. Spiritomb has picked up Will-O-Wisp, making it far more threatening. Roserade, Lucario, and Milotic all are the exact same nature, same items, everything else, except for Lucario dropping Nasty Plot in Change of Psychic. Garchomp, again, same force of nature as we've gone over prior. The only difference now is that our Gastrodon is replaced with Togekiss. It also has leftovers, so it is filling the role of Team Tank, but now it is a timid nature with 52 HP EVs, 252 special attack, and 204 speed EVs. With Serene Grace, it has the debilitation Paraflinch Togekiss combo that is, well, the calling card of the Toga line. It also has 2 excellent stabs and the great Aura Sphere for counter coverage. Her team is just fantastic here. But this is not the end. 3rd teams of the Elite Four all around, 3 teams, 3 fears, 3 tiers for you. Most of the teams are actually the same as prior. 1 or 2 Pokemon have been changed. The 6th slot is now filled by a Pokemon, and potentially 1 of the prior 5 have been changed out. But we'll be going over them, and again, this will be a little bit brief. Aron has a modest Wise Glasses Flygon with 252 speed and special attack. Even though Flygon is not exactly the greatest of special attackers, it can hit pretty hard with this, and it does a very good job on his team. Bertha actually has altered 2 Pokemon. A Nidoking has replaced her Golem, being modest 252 HP and special attack with Sheer Force and Life Orb. Again, as we've been over, Sheer Force Life Orb takes no recoil damage and receives a 70% power boost. It really does compensate for, well, the fact that it doesn't get same attack bonus on some of those moves, and the moves with Stab are brutal. There's a reason this has been seen in competitive. It also has very decent bulk. It's a pretty big beast. The same applies for her Adamant Mamoswine with 252 attacking EVs and speed, thick fat, and a vicious moveset, plus a pretty strong closing priority with Ice Shard and actually great bulk on top of that. Flint has added a Drought, Heat Rock, Elite Alola Ninetales, timid 252 speed and special attack with a beautifully brutiful moveset. He's also added a Jolly Intimidate Arcanine with a Shukaberry on his team with 252 speed and attack EVs and solid moves. Lucian has added a fantastic Tank Regenerator Degenerator Slowbro to his team with leftovers, Bold 252 in HP, Slack Off for even more sustain, and just 3 great moves for damage, all while bulking out pretty well. Very good. Cynthia has actually changed out her Roserade now for a vicious Porygon Z. With timid 252 speed and special attacking EVs, adaptability Hyper Beam is diabolical, and Expert Belt goes great with its coverage, making this thing a menace. Her Lucario has also changed quite substantially. She's actually converted into a physically focused Sash variant with Meteor Mash, Close Combat, Earthquake, and Extreme Speed, being Jolly Nature with 252 attack and speed EVs. It's actually quite good, even though Lucario does have a lower physical attack than special attack, it's only by 5 points, and these moves' base powers are significantly higher than its special attacking moves, so it actually does keep pace and even does more damage. It's actually quite good. Again, Spiritomb, Milotic, Togekiss, and of course her Garchomp, all lethal just as before. Now, for closing out, we have 2 more battles, or rather, I should say, 12. This is because both Dawn and Lucas can be battled, and their teams depend on, of course, which character you picked and what starter you picked. Dawn using a Frostlass and a Wormadam, Lucas using a Gallade and a Mothim, with the individuals between the teams actually having slight variations. Starting with Lucas, Mothim with tinted lenses and a sash pairs extremely well with his Quiver Dance with 252 speed, special attack, and timid nature. This thing is actually a pretty strong sweeper. His Milotic is fantastic. It has Flame Orb, 252 HP, 128 in both defenses, and 6 speed. Modest Sub, Calm Mind, Recover, and Marvel Scale is utterly fantastic. It's also very mean and can deal out a lot of damage, while actually having some great sustain. Adamant Life Orb Gallade with 252 speed attack is a brutal attacker. Modest Magmortar with an Expert Belt, 252 speed and special attack, brutal moveset. A great Stolical Flavor with a Citrus Berry and Unaware, so no boosters allowed, and it itself can actually boost up and does actually have very good sustain and blast back. Tangrowth is Adamant 252 attack and HP, with a spectacular Lumberry and a very solid moveset. His sets are all actually pretty great, especially when it comes to his starters. Leftovers Torterra with Brave Nature, Banded, Hardy, Empoleon, 252 HP and attack, and in front of it is Jolly with a White Herb and 252 attack and speed. All of them have excellent movesets of either Tech, Power, or both. And by the way, all these Pokemon have 31 EVs across the board, other than Torterra with 0 speed. Dawn has a more defensive moveset. Her Wormadam will actually depend on what your starter is. Trash Wormadam has 252 HP and 120 in both defenses. Sandy has 252 HP, 252 attack, and Plant has 252 HP, 252 special attack, with all of them actually having very good movesets. Her Tangela is actually a modest Specs user with 252 HP and special attack, and of course great moves. Her Magmortar is actually the same as Lucas, but her Milotic is a little different. This one is actually meant to be a bit more aggressive. Competitive with Life Orb, 252 speed, special attack, and modest, recover with 3 fantastic moves. She's a timid Sash Frostlass with 252 speed and special attack, and Will-O-Wisp Pex is actually very solid. Her Clefable, again, same as Lucas, 252 special attack and speed with timid, not bad. Her starters are actually all the same nature as Lucas's, but slightly different in terms of their moves. Mira is more offensive, and it has a Yacha Berry with a 252 attack and 128 in defense and HP. Infernape's Expert Belt and U-Turn with leftovers, Empoleon is actually quite good. With 252 special attack and HP is solid with its special kit. This is where the fights get a little bit different. Their rematch teams are heavily revamped, to the point that these are 6 individually different battles. Before there was a bit crossing over between everything, this is where they're almost entirely and exclusively different. Lucas up first has a Dusknoir with a Lumberry, Brave, 252 attack and HP, with Will-O-Wisp and Trick Room. Not bad, it doesn't have the greatest of moves for damage, but it's not really meant to be that. And even though they are not stab, they're actually hardly bad moves. And Adamant Guts Toxgarb Flareon with 0 speed EVs is actually quite good, especially considering this thing will be used in Trick Room. It is terrifying with a max 252 HP and attack. The same is actually applicable to his Rampardos and packing a Sash with a brutal moveset augmented by its already sky-high attacking stats. A modest Specs Wash Rotom with 252 HP special attack is terrifying, especially with its amazing moveset. And a glaring Jolly King's Rock Dunsparce with 252 defense and HP is actually pretty good because it can Serene Grace Flinch Hack. His Torterra is Brave with leftovers, also a Stall set with 252 attack and HP is solid. Next team is a crit hacking Jolly Absol with Super Luck Razor Claw, 252 attack and speed. 3 high critical hit moves is actually quite a bit terrifying. A Sash Weak Armor Kabutops with Swords Dance setup and Adamant 252 speed and attack is very good, especially with 3 very solid moves, and the HP sucking Leech Life. Life Orb Magic Bounce Espeon with modest 252 special attack and speed is actually quite fast and quite hard hitting with some solid moves. A modest Mo Rotom with 252 special attack and speed is also a stellar one. Modest 252 special attack and speed. With a Silk Scarf adaptability Porygon Z with amazing moves across the board, especially with that techie Thunder Wave, and brutal special attack adaptability is terrifyingly frightening. His Infernape is the same as actually before, it's still amazing. His third battle, he has a Stall Potential Gliscor with Impish, so it is minus special attack, up physical defense, with Fling and Roost. It has fantastic stabs, it is a very bulky damage dealer, which is actually very hard to take down itself. Max HP and special defense. A Storm Drain Big Root Cradily with 252 HP, 120 both, 128 both defenses, with Ingrain and Leech Seed and Giga Drain and Stockpile. This thing can wall utterly fantastically, slowly chip down most anything. With a bold nature fueling this, it's not easy to take down. Glaceon with Ice Body, Leftovers, Modest, and Inhale with Freeze Dry and Blizzard. Yeah, this thing's really good. 252, especially in speed and special attack, is pretty cold. Amusingly, he has a 252 speed and special attack, modest Life Orb Tauros with Intimidate. It actually isn't bad in a bit of an oddball way, because it does actually have some pretty strong moves. It's not terrible. Also, his Specs Rotom Heat, fantastic. Same IVs as the Rotom Mo. Empoleon is actually the same as before. Dawn second round, her first team is a Tailwind Crobat with a Jolly 252 speed, 128 HP and defense, with Super Fang and U-Turn. It's actually quite good. Adamant 252 attack and speed, Life Orb Arcanine, with amazing physical attacking moves and of course the, as always, great ability of Intimidate. The Screen Setter Mr. Mime, filtered with 252 HP and speed, timid, it can very well support the team, of course, using those things to outspeed, set up a screen, and then potentially survive a hit and then get in some damage the next turn, of course by having those screens allowed to take a hit surprisingly well. A nightmare-inducing Shell Smash Blastoise with excellent moves, modest nature, and 252 special attack and speed. An Expert Belt modest 252 HP special attack Licky Licky with some pretty good coverage options to benefit, of course, that Expert Belt. Her Torterra is the same as last time, absolutely fantastic. Her second team, she has a Crit Hack Super Luck Scope Lens Honchkrow with Sucker Punch and Night Slash. Very good. Jolly 252 attack and speed. Shell Smashing Wikiberry Gorbis with, of course, the very powerful Hydro Pump, Ice Beam, and Baton Pass, so it can actually pass those powerful buffs onto an ally. It is quite terrifying, with timid 252 speed and special attack. Sceptile is an unburdened Pokemon with, of course, a herb to reset its lowered stats. It is meant to, of course, be actually very good at receiving that Shell Smash pass, but it also can actually do very well on its own. Lonely, so it will actually have a boosted attack minus its defense. It is actually a true horror, considering it has 252 attack and speed. Leaf Storm will actually help get its speed boost off while being a very powerful move on its own, and it has very great physical moves. A solid Life Orb Technician Ambipom with Jolly and very great moves to complement that Technician. It also has U-Turn to just be a very generally good pivot. Infernape is the same as before, it is still great. Last one, she has an excellent Paraflinch Serene Grace Togekiss. Timid with 252 speed and special attack. She's a Persian Berry Quiver Dancing, Petal Dancing Blossom, modest 252 speed and special attack. This thing is a beast. A Life Orb Thick Fat Adamant 252 attack, 252 attack, 128 HP and defense Mamoswine with a top-notch moveset. Her Typhlosion will only have a single attack, but when that attack is Eruption and you're Scarfed, does that really mean much, especially when you are also 252 speed, special attack, and timid? Very brutal eruptions. This thing is a nuclear level of damage. An absolutely degenerate Klutzlopany with a lagging tail and switcheroo, careful nature, so 252 attack and HP. This thing is absolutely wonderful at utterly debilitating teams. It has a great kit for, of course, this while it's also unaffected by that lagging tail because it has the ability Klutz. It's not affected by held items, and it uses that to its advantage. Her Empoleon is, of course, the same as before, stellar as always. Now, does this team look familiar? Well, it should. It is pretty much her entire team from the anime, just with the Pachirisu swapped out for Blossom, which I'm okay with. I don't like Pachirisu. But there we go. This is the end of Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl's analysis. How well does this game stack up with Shield and Sword? Oh yeah, it's a lot harder. It's not even close. It's hard by a good margin. Sinnoh Prior was already one of the best put together regions in terms of team composition overall. And this game with the combination of EVs dials that up. This game with just items would dial it up. Both of those together really dials it up to pretty much an insurmountable degree. Whether it is or not, we'll have to see in the analysis at the end of the overall series. But for the point of this specific video, it's pretty far and above what Shield and Sword has. And at best, these teams are great. At worst, they're still pretty competent. Even teams that are not especially great relative to the rest of the game have toolkits to still do some things that are not completely impotent. You know, Cyrus doesn't exactly have the greatest of team in the end, and it's one of the things I do say that this game did lean a bit too much on being too faithful to a fault, but they still make good use of what he has. You know, really outside the first Cyrus fight and really Mars-Jupiter multi-battle, I wouldn't say that there's too many particularly easy fights. Again, those are probably the notable exceptions. Almost everything in this game hits pretty hard, or is a tank that doesn't really get hit too hard, and can hit decently hard back in return, because again, they're tanks with generally a good bit of attacking investment. But yeah, it feels really weird to be at the end of this series. I mean, I've been doing this for about almost 2.5 months already, about 3 months in terms of conceptual things, but we're almost done. Well, there are still 2 questions left to be answered. So, I hope to see you guys next time where we start answering both of those questions. Which game was actually the easiest, and which game was truly the hardest. See you guys then.